Well, good evening, freedom fighters and Alberta patriots. It's an honor to be here tonight to share a few thoughts with you and to hear your questions and maybe some ideas, some answers. But my goodness, we certainly live in tumultuous times. Who knows what's going to come up tomorrow? What's government going to announce? We've got two leaders that are battling it out that want to take control of Alberta, and we're not in a good situation. But those of you who are part of the Wild Rose Independence Party, you already know that, and that's why you're with us. And so tonight, we're just going to talk a little bit about the sentiment of the Easterners, and want to start off with that wonderful blog that, was one of the Liberal candidates put out last May from Calgary Nose Hill, who says, Alberta, you need to either fit in or blank off. And I think that she really summarizes in what Justin Trudeau would love to say himself, but he doesn't dare do it. And he might before the end of the campaign. But anyways, the thing that we face here as Albertans is the realization that they have, I want to say, no love for Alberta, no appreciation for Alberta, no appreciation for what we've contributed, no appreciation of who we are, no appreciation of what we do for a living, and certainly no appreciation of the taxes that we've paid to Ottawa. And we need to realize this. And to me, this is very much, and I've said it before, and I'll keep saying it, this is like a family intervention. We're in a very broken, dysfunctional relationship with Eastern Canada. Right from the start, their thought is that they would use us for their profiteering, and they've done that. Our Constitution, it's not a Constitution for all Canadians. It's a Constitution for divide and conquer. It's been extremely difficult to, what would I say, to be part of this country and to listen from the rhetoric of our Prime Minister and his very divisive policies. It's very upsetting the way he divides the East from the West, the rural from the city, one industry against another industry, one race against another race. And it's deplorable. It's embarrassing to me, the way he's behaved, the way he talks, his images, just everything about Prime Minister Trudeau is frustrating to me as an Albertan. And that's why I've accepted this role as the leader of the Wild Rose Independence Party, because I see no other option. Just want to bring these two books that I think that every Albertan should read, should be in our curriculum. But the first one's going back a bit, from Michael Wagner, Alberta, Separation. Oh, got my fingers in the wrong place. Terrible. Backwards. Then and Now. Excellent read. Highly recommend it. And we'll have Michael on here shortly, and he can talk a little bit about it. But his newest book out is No Other Option. And that's really where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. We have no other option. We absolutely need to take the steps that Premier Kenney promised that he would take to stand up to Ottawa, to take care of Alberta, and he's failed to do it. He has sent out the Fair Deal panel, went around for months. They wouldn't release the report. They've never released the report in the full form. It's been redacted that I'm aware of. I've never seen the full report. It's very frustrating. And he has failed to do an act on any of them. He continues to say he's studying, he's looking. And when you're in a relationship with, I want to say, a drug-addicted, gambling alcoholic who is only worried about instant gratification, you need to get out. And what are the steps to get out? We've talked about it many times, but number one, we need to start collecting all the taxes here in Alberta by Albertans for Albertans. When we have a shared bank account, and you can't really call it shared because we send our taxes down there, and then it goes into a black hole and nothing comes, well, I shouldn't say nothing comes back, very little comes back, and certainly there's very little value for what we send down there. His, I don't know, worldwide trips to boost his image is embarrassing. The money that he spends and promises for different areas of Eastern Canada, it's an insult to hardworking Albertans, those that are being taxed, being overtaxed. And what's really concerning with the ongoing COVID situation is he's called this election. He's wanting to bring in vaccine passports. And, when you go back and you look at all of this, originally, nope, it's okay. There's no problems. We're not going to shut down. There'd be segregation. We're not going to shut down flights coming in from China. where this has started, and we're just in a real dilemma. Our own premier, he promised no vaccine passports will be allowed here in Alberta, but now we're hearing that the unvaccinated people won't be able to fly, take a train. Many employers may fire these people. We saw in Banff that, that the federal government is saying that they don't get their vaccines, there's a good possibility that they'll be fired. And is Kenny standing up for every Albertan? No, he's just going along with the status quo. Like I say, I'm so frustrated. He says he's not afraid of Justin. He knows how to stand up with him. Well, I say that he's in bed with Ottawa. He's not looking after us, and he's very much allowing for a segregated and divisive society. And this is the wrong way to go. It's not in Alberta's best interest. It's not in our children's best interest. They're going to be going back to school here the next couple of weeks, and they don't know which way or how it's going to happen. It's frustrating for me. I've talked to some teachers, and the best news that I've heard from our province in the last year and a half was when they came to the point where they said, you know what, there's going to be no more testing. We're not going to be chasing after these people that are sick, and we're going to treat this like any other flu season. And just like last December, when he acknowledged that it was wrong for him to pick winners and losers, which businesses are essential and which ones aren't, and a week later he flip-flopped. And it's the same with this. He said it's going to be like any other flu season, and then immediately he allowed the school districts and other areas to start piping up and saying what they were going to do, and he hasn't denounced them. He hasn't put them in place. He's caved, ending all the restrictions, and now many children will be stuck with mandatory masks this fall, which again is just wrong. We've had so many people speak out on this and the idea of masks and how it's hurting individuals, and we need to end it. It's just so frustrating. And so what I want to talk about is what can we as Wild Rose Independent members do during this federal election, and more important, what I want to see done on September 21st, 22nd, and 23rd of September. It's a real challenge. I was with a group of individuals yesterday that none of it was political. I was invited to a function and I went there, and I have to say I was amazed at how little they were connected to any politics. All of them knew that there'd been a federal election called. None of them knew who the candidate was that was running in their area. They couldn't name off any more than 2 parties, 3 parties at best. And then they says, well, I really don't know what the issues are. And this is what we're really faced with as Albertans, and especially as Wild Rose Independent Albertans, that we realize the problem and the dilemma. We realize and understand the attacks that the federal government has imposed with the tanker ban, with the pipeline legislation for no more pipelines. These have been dramatic and very harmful to Alberta, to our industry, and to many Albertans as individuals in this business. The thousands, tens of thousands, and some say 100,000 jobs that have been lost, and this is just unacceptable. Got to dry my whistle here for a second. But bottom line is, how are we going to reach out, and how are we going to talk to our neighbors, our friends, our neighborhood, and even the people in our cities, towns, and villages? And this is one of the things that we're going to do. We're putting together a brochure that you as individuals will be able to go the day after the election and to door drop our pamphlet to let people know that the Wild Rose has a better way forward for Albertans. Many Albertans they're not connected. They don't know about the Wild Rose, and we need to share that message with them. Not all people are on Facebook. They're not on Twitter. And they're certainly not on Instagram. And we need to reach out to these individuals. And so I think the best way we can do it is if you, the members, will go to our website, wildrose.party, and click on the volunteer button there, and then volunteer and say, I would like to be part of the leaflet, the door-to-door drop-off. We will get in touch with you and we'll help coordinate so that the day after the election, we can start going door to door and share these brochures. But we need every member to step up on this. The more members that are phoning in, or sending us an email and clicking and subscribing to this, the better a job we can get the message out. And this is going to be our I want to say our best chance going forward to get our name out and for Albertans to realize that there is another option, because most Albertans aren't aware of that option. And so we need to get this message out across Alberta in every home possible. And the best and most efficient way is, like I say, going door to door in the towns, the villages, and the city, and dropping off our little brochure in the door and moving on. That way they'll open it up, they'll see it, and they'll realize, Wild Rose, well, what's this? And hopefully there'll be those that understand we're in a problem that will look at it. It's just been after an election. I think that whatever the outcome is, that Albertans are going to be frustrated. They're going to realize is that there isn't much of a future for us with Eastern Canada determining our policies on health, our policy on industry, our policy on the environment. All of these policies are being driven right now by federal government and a provincial government that fails to stand up for any of us, let alone any industry as an individual. And so, like I say, if you go to wildrose.party and click on the volunteer button there, we're going to coordinate a massive province-wide pamphlet drop that's going to get our message out. And I don't know, I think tonight I just want to share that and then to go into the Q&A and answer some questions. There'll probably be a lot, and maybe some with the federal election and what we can do. But bottom line, we're in the fight for our lives. We're in the fight for our freedoms. We're in the fight for our families and for our children. And so if you go to that website and sign up, please be patient with us. We'll get the brochures and things out there, but we need to know how many volunteers are going to be willing to go out. And so signing up early will be very helpful. Share this, and again, try and get as many people as you can. If you're in an organized CA, start planning on how you're going to do it, but we'll be working with you and looking forward to that. But David, at this point, let's maybe go to questions and see what we can answer here tonight. Are you reading those out, David, or am I supposed to then? How would moving tax collection enable Albertan to keep more of the money that the federal tax system takes from individual taxpayers? Could you shed some light on that? Well, thank you, Stephen. That's an excellent question. Currently, right now, what we have is a federal collection system where we send our money, whether it's to Manitoba, out to New Brunswick, or whether it's immediately online. Setting up an Alberta revenue agency that collects all the taxes here, we'll actually have them all here, and we will look at the federal programs and we will send money to the federal programs that we believe in. This idea of sending money down there to Ottawa and then asking for it to come back isn't going to work. Well, it hasn't worked. They continue to pound us economically, take our money, and they refuse to send it back. Equalization is a small red herring that people talk about, and again, it's a small part, but it's only a very small part of the $50 billion that we send to Ottawa. And so by collecting the taxes here, we'll actually have that $50 billion. We'll look at the federal programs like the military, border security, intelligence, other things like that. And we'll send our money to support the programs. And so basically, we'll take control of the self-determination on where we're going and what programs are good for the nation. But healthcare, that's provincial jurisdiction. There's no reason for us to be sending dollars down to Ottawa and then asking for health transfers back to here in Alberta. Again, some of the other things that we need to switch and stop is the employment insurance. Same thing. We send it all down to Ottawa. They mess around with the parameters on who gets to have work employment insurance and who doesn't, and they vary it from one area to the next, and that's not good for Albertans. But bottom line, by collecting the money here, it's like having your own bank account as opposed to having your parents looking after your bank account that's in trust for you. Basically, that's what we're in, is we have a trust account with the federal government, and they continue to say no to the things that we need. There another question there, David? Boy, I'm going to have to put on my glasses. That is too small tonight for me to read. Barren, not barren. It all comes down to money. You understand. Well, certainly money is the basis of it, but there's a lot more to it than just the money. In the fact that even our federal courts are ruling against us and our constitutional rights to export our oil and gas. When it comes to healthcare, all of these areas, money is certainly the driving force and is a control button. But we need to have our own police force, as I've said many times. We need to have our own environmental laws, and those things will enable us to be able to be independent, to show Albertans that there's confidence. And that's just the direction that we need to go. We need to take every step possible. Let's go through those 6 steps. Number 1, we need our own police force. Number 2, we need our own Alberta Revenue Agency. Number 3, we need our own pension plan. 4, we need our employment insurance. 5, we need to take control of immigration into our province. And then number 6, the big elephant in the room is that we'll be governed by our own Environmental Act. We won't be having the hypocrites from Ottawa telling us that we have to tax carbon, telling us what we can and can't produce. It's just unacceptable, and there's such hypocrites. I mean, if they want to live a carbon-free lifestyle, go ahead and try and do it before you preach to us and say that you want to shut us down. It's just shameful that we're the only jurisdiction in the world that they're trying to shut down the carbon industry. Everyone else gets to go. Eastern Canada, I believe it's 800 million barrels a day they bring in from Saudi, Venezuela, Nigeria, other jurisdictions, and they won't take ours. This isn't a desire to build Alberta or to even build Canada. For me, there's no question that Justin Trudeau wants a great reset. He wants us bankrupt. You look at the hundreds of billions of dollars that he's spent on nothing this year. This is like an internal employee that wants to destroy the business, and they're going to put us into bankruptcy, much like that Barclays individual who was on the hedge funds and destroyed the bank. This is, to me, what Justin is doing to our country. Economically, he's destroying us. Another question there, Dave. Boy, oh boy, I don't know why it's so little here tonight, but my screen's expanded. Let's see what we got here. Wild Rose can influence policy right now based on the polls. Kenny is looking at that. The more vocal and clear the Wild Rose can be regarding lockdowns and vaccines, the more you can drive the policy right now. Thoughts? Yes, Rob, I believe the only reason why Alberta even the lockdowns were lifted is because of individuals like yourself and those that are joining the Wild Rose Independence Party scared Jason into saying we've got to end the lockdowns. When you have civil disobedience, it really does take the masses, and we have the opportunity to do it democratically here. As you talk to your friends and your neighbors and say, look, these lockdowns are wrong. Individuals who want to quarantine or isolate themselves are welcome to do that. But you can't have government and bureaucrats picking and choosing winners and losers, what businesses have to close, which businesses get to remain open. And when you look at it, there's absolutely no reason for the ones that they've chosen attacked and the ones that they haven't, other than the fact that they want to destroy the family and they want to destroy small businesses. That's why they've attacked them. Walmart, you get to stay. Costco, you get to stay. The superstores, you go in there, and every one of us realize that this is more dangerous than anywhere else because we're exposed to hundreds and thousands of people. You go into a small shop, there's 5 or 6. The chances are so remote in those small shops, that yet they demonize those, the hairdresser, the gyms, and all of those they demonize and say, oh, they don't call them super spreaders, but they treat them like super spreaders. This needs to end. And again, as our party grows, that is absolutely what will determine and push Jason to do what's right, and that's to protect our individual freedoms, to allow businesses and people to make decisions on what their risk factor is. And the same with the vaccines. It's just unbelievable, the propaganda that they put out there, the fear mongering that they put out there, telling people that you've got to get vaccinated. There's many people, including myself, that I'm not convinced that these vaccines are safe. When you look at the adverse reactions to them, they're through the roof compared to any other vaccine that we've had. when you look at diseases, vaccines have worked historically for diseases, but this isn't a disease. This is a virus. This is the flu virus. It's the coronavirus. It's been with man since we've started. And to think that somehow we're going to have the intelligence to be able to understand where this virus is going to mutate to and be ahead of it. No, this is worse than the dog chasing its tail and thinking that somehow we're going to get some relief at the end of the day by doing it. We're destroying our country. We're destroying our businesses. We're destroying families. I mean, the cost of this reaction to COVID will take decades to recover from. And again, the number of individuals who have been traumatized, those who have lost family members to suicide, the mental health. It was said a year ago that the reaction of government is doing far more harm than the disease itself. And like I say, the best thing that I've heard in the last 18 months is when they came to the realization and say, you know, we're going to treat COVID like every other flu season. What should we have done? We should have created a more robust healthcare system. Have you heard of a new hospital being built in the last year in Alberta? Have you heard of increase in ICU? Technicians that are taught, respiratory therapists, nurses, specialists. None of these things have been addressed to, what would I say, admit to the fact that our healthcare system has been overrun. Our frontline workers have been overrun for 20 years. And as our population grows and as new variants come forward in flu season, we're not addressed and we're not capable of dealing with that. And so their reaction is to shut down and isolate everybody. No, they're destroying our province, they're destroying people's lives, and they're destroying businesses, and it's unacceptable. So we absolutely need to have strength in numbers. You can call us the civil disobedient movement, but it's the Wild Rose Independence Party of Alberta that is the future and the only hope that I see for Albertans, and it's why I'm thrilled to be working with each and every one of you to protect our individual rights and freedoms. Next question, David. Matt, how many separatist parties? Why don't they all come together? Well, that's a great question, and the fact of the matter is, Wild Rose is at 20% in the polls. We are the Separatist Party of Alberta. There's other small groups that are out there working and talking to Albertans, and that's great. But I think you can be fairly confident and keep working with us. We put these brochures out on the 21st, 22nd, 23rd. That it's not about coming together so much as offering Albertans those choices. And, you know, why do we want to try and force people to come together who don't want to or have a separate idea? All of those other parties together, they don't even come up to 1% in the polls. But let's just keep going with the questions and we'll have some more answers here. Oh, I have a question. How is the members website coming? What new features are planned? Well, David, I don't know. Do you want to come on and answer that? It's coming along good. Membership at wildrosenation.com. One of the things that we're going to have on there is PDF forms for people to print off. We're going to have some swag. Okay, David's coming on. He'll be able to answer this.
Hello. Okay, so the new membership website is live, membership.wildrosenation.com. All the members should have received a couple of emails about a week ago. One would have been inviting them to come to the website and registering on the website. The other one would have been to all the members who may not have received that email. If you have not received any of those emails, but you think you're a member, please email membership@wildrosenation.com, and I am helping everybody out to get them figured out. But on this website, membership.wildrosenation.com, you can manage your own membership. So if you need to make changes, telephone number, email address, your address, you can do that now on your own. Plus, you can renew your membership. You can see when your membership started and when it will end. We also are adding, well, we have right now a business directory. And so if you have a business, you can get yourself added to that so that we can promote to the Wild Rose Nation or the members of the party. Um, there will be there is an event calendar, but that's being filled out now. Um, and we're going to have a section in there that is also starting to be filled out where we're going to have training for members. We're going to have downloads that you guys can download and print off, like brochures and other, well, all sorts of different items. Um, but the biggest thing is that we're going to have training, and so if you need to um, learn how to share the message with other people, your friends, um, if you need to know what our policies are on different things are, or the most asked questions and what the answers to those are, we're going to have those up there. So, yes, the membership.wildrosenation.com. If you haven't received any emails, but you think you're a member, because there was a transition from an old membership system to the new one, so some people got left behind. Email us at membership@wildrosenation.com. So there you go.
Thank you, David. Got a chance to look there. One of the questions that I saw was, Paul, do you have an email address? Yes, my email address is paul@paulhinman.com. And I've set up a new email address, ideas@paulhinman.com. And so if you have some ideas that you want to send to me, please do that, ideas@paulhinman.com. And the same for an email to me, it's paul@paulhinman.com. I appreciate the emails. Some of them are a little lengthy and take longer to answer. And I'm just realizing today that I had one from Monday that I haven't answered yet, and some going further back that have been kind of lost in there because I start answering them and then get off there. But anyways, that's paul@paulhinman.com and ideas@paulhinman.com. Thank you. Another question, Dave, or do I need to look over there? Oh, here we go. From Nancy, can you explain how we would avoid being landlocked with our resources? Well, thank you, Nancy. Another excellent question. And again, these are things that we're going to get up on our website so that members can go there and figure these out. But actually, international law doesn't allow countries to landlock countries and prohibit them from getting to tidewater. As a province, we can't get to tidewater. Our federal government has locked us in. They've allowed the provinces to lock us in. But as an there's a sovereign nation. We have international law on our side, and we can actually do our own negotiating. We can stand up for ourselves, which we can't do. But I hope that answered your question, Nancy, and thank you for it because it's a common one. Oh, I keep putting these on there. Does Lacombe Panoka question? Does Lacombe Panoka representative? Do they have a CA? Maybe I believe they do. Again, if you go to our website wildrose.party and then go, I believe it's under constituencies. There's a list that'll come up, and if nothing comes up in your area as a constituency, then you can send an email. At the bottom, it'll say send an email if you're interested in starting a CA or just to get connected with your CA. Thank you for that question. Get ready for the next one. From Henry, in connection with the federal election, the Maverick Party or PPC are not in our riding. Our choice is to vote for the Liberals, CPC, or NDP. We are, I think it says, thinking of spoiling our ballot. What are your thoughts on that? Well, thank you, Henry. I think that one of the things that we need to have in our new Alberta sovereign nation at the bottom of the ballot is none of the above. And I think that it's important that a person goes out and votes. And if there's none of the ones that you want to vote for, then spoiling your ballot sends that message that you're not happy with any of them. But I wish it was more explicit with a none of the above. But thank you. And please make sure you do get out and vote and let them know that you're not happy with them. But good thought. Is there more coming, David? Are we answering them? I see at the bottom here, looking at questions, we got Kathy saying, I'll be spoiling mine.
Sorry, there's just while I was giving my little spiel, there was a lot of comments, so I'm trying to get through them now to find a good question.
Okay, well, I'll start looking then at some as well. Okay, let's go to no one. Oh, jump down on my screen here. Don't know where it went to. Well, we got Beverly saying the CAs are no longer on the website. Well, we will get them up, Beverly. I'll take note of that, and we'll get them up so that you can find that for yourself.
Can I just say something here?
Yes.
Just so all the members know, there's a new website coming called wildrosenation.com, and it's so close to being done. So close to being done. On there, it has all of the constituencies. So you could still email the party. If you go to the bottom of the website, you can click on the email and ask about the Lacombe Panoka. But anyway, stay tuned for the new website coming.
And that reminds me, again, in this transition, and this is going to be exciting because we can do so much more with the new program that we're adapting, and we're going to have other programs for door knocking and those type of things. But the other email for me now is Paul Hidman at wildrosenation.com. That other one will still be working, but we're trying to streamline, and I need to get a personal assistant to be going through all my emails eventually. And so Paul Hinman at wildrosenation.com. Let's see what else we've got here. We got one from Barney Betty. What do you think about Derek Sloan running federally in Alberta Banff Airdrie? I think it will help push Alberta independence even further. Well, thank you, Barney. I personally think that this federal election, whatever the outcome, is going to be pushing Albertans to realize that we're in a no-win situation. We're in this broken, dysfunctional, toxic relationship, and we need to be the ones to take charge and say, we're going to take the steps to be independent, and then let Albertans vote on sovereignty down the road after they've seen just what we can do when we've got all of the items in place that we've talked about so many times. Most important are our taxes and our police force. But thank you for that question. United Nations Law of the Sea guarantees access to ocean. Thank you, Steve. Rob, you are right. His name is Rob Wright, but Trudeau's majority will do the most for an Alberta independence. But each of you, I'm sure, are following the comments there. But David, are you finding some more that I need to answer? Paul, when is the next WIP meet up in Calgary? I'm not sure that we have the calendar up yet for all members, but hopefully here in the next few days, the calendar will go up. Off the top of my head, I've got meetings in the Northeast, meetings up in the Northwest. I got some meetings, I think, in the Medicine Hat area, but I don't have any scheduled at this point for Calgary and Edmonton. So those of you who would like to host a meeting, please contact the party, and we will get that going, because we need to take advantage. Will the sun shines, or will the lockdown is removed? But appreciate the question, and like I say, don't hesitate to call, to email, and say you'd like to participate or help, to volunteer to get one going. We need every member to be part of this team to push this effort forward, and for Albertans to hear and know about us. What should we have done? Plan ahead by having a more robust healthcare system? Absolutely. Our healthcare system has been, running at 110% for 20 years, and they've failed to do that. Be flexible and adjust as information changes. Lockdown first, but once the information came out that the coronavirus is not nearly as dangerous as initially thought, then open up with strong recommendations for those most at risk. Absolutely. First of all, what was most frustrating was that our premier was, oh, don't take that down, David. I got one last question I didn't read there. Our premier failed in the fact that even when we were announcing the lockdowns, there was conclusive information that this was deadly for seniors and senior care facilities. and that was the area to lock down first. We had an Alberta emergency plan. We had an individual that had spent, well, his career was in dealing with that, and that individual and the emergency plan was removed, and everything was turned over to a healthcare system that has no understanding of the economy, no understanding of individual lives, of education, any of those things to run and decide how we're going to react. And they did categorically the wrong things. And even with the idea that initially was taken was a 2-week break, isolation, to flatten the curve. And they never did do that. I mean, if it really was a pandemic and as bad as what they thought it was, and we're going to lose hundreds of thousands, if not 1 million people to die in Canada, then they could have hit the intermittent on off, but they never did that. They went into lockdown. But there's one more question, David, on the bottom of that one. Transparency with regards to information about the illness. Absolutely, but more important than transparency, to let the medical system do what they do best. There was early, what would I want to say, trials that were showing some very positive results. Ivermectin, there's so many trials on that, on its effectiveness and what it could and should do in areas where it was worked. And hydroxychloroquine was another one. And what did we have? We had central government clamping down on physicians that weren't allowing them to repurpose drugs that were proven safe, and saying that no, that there's no treatment available. And this is wrong. The freedom of information being shared was critical, and yet we had big tech and big government and the bureaucracy all attacking and shutting it down. There was lots of evidence very early on that the PCR tests were faulty. And again, they whenever they gave us information, it was only enough to scare us. If 10 people died, they would never say that, oh, we had 10 people die. 9 of those 10 people were over 82 years of age. And by the way, 7 of those 9 had do not resuscitate on their orders. We have no information on actually who was dying, what the situation was. And everything was blown out of proportion, in my opinion. And it was about fear mongering and controlling the people, scaring them into complacency. And worse than that, scaring them to the point where they became whistleblowers and attacking other individuals who didn't, what would I say, didn't respond to the fear. But the CDC, they've announced, and the WHO has announced that they're going to abandon and not use the PCR test come December 31st. And why they're waiting to then, they shouldn't be using it. The inventor of it came on and gave a testimonial saying this isn't the purpose of it. And the cycle threshold was well known long ago. And again, it's interesting, as we were going through the flu season, they said, wow, the influenza's gone. And now what do we know? Well, the PCR test couldn't tell the difference between influenza A, B, or coronavirus when you have a cycle threshold, of 30, 35, 41, which I think they had here in the province. But it just seemed like everything that the government and the pharmaceuticals and the bureaucracy and the healthcare system was about scaring people. And that's just wrong. Should have been giving confidence, should have been sharing those reports in different areas in the world. We should have been running the trials to see the effectiveness of any of these other options. And we failed to. And Premier Kenney failed to protect Albertans, failed to protect our seniors, failed to protect workers, our jobs, our industry. And these people need to be turfed. They need to be thrown out. Wild Rose Independence Party will be there to protect your life, your liberty, your property, and the future of Alberta and our economic security. But anyways, great question. Oh, I keep taking off my glasses and then I got to put them back on. What do you think of Derek Sloan? Oh, I already answered that. It's great that we have federal politicians that are out there talking and wanting to support us. But the fact of the matter is that the election's over after Quebec polls are shut. And anybody who wants to, what would I want to say, protect Alberta, You can't do it. We're a minority. Our government and our constitution allows tyranny of the majority, and they're going to continue to do that. They can vote to tax us to death. They can vote to shut down our industry. All of those things, we're vulnerable to them. We need to be sovereign. We need to be independent. And the federal election for me is mute. It'll just be correspond to, what would I say, the reaction of Albertans on how bad it is, on a pain threshold out of 1 to 10. Is it a 1? Is it a 5? Is it an 8? Is it a 10? Well, I project it'll be between a 7 and a 9 by September 20th, 9 p.m. at night. But thanks for the question. Assuming we separate, what will your title be? Premier, Prime Minister, President, King? Well, I'm not worried about title. I'm worried about our freedoms. And we will have some good discussions in the first part of government to see where Albertans want to go. But the number one thing will be taking those steps to becoming independent. We go through those 6 steps. We'll certainly talk about what type of government we want to be, and we'll have time to describe the different options. But I'm not worried about the title. I'm worried about our freedom, and I'm worried about our independence, and that's the goal. And then we can decide what we want to do. But thanks for the question. Jonathan, Mr. Hinman, when you hand out pamphlets, why don't you hand out information on exemptions at the same time? Exemptions. I'm not sure what you mean by that. But bottom line with those pamphlets, what we're trying to show Albertans is that the 6 critical steps that we need to be independent and to become a sovereign nation. And it's just like any individual, there's steps that you need to take when you're a teenager, when you're still living at home. What are the steps you take to become independent? Well, these are the steps that we need to take to become a sovereign nation. And maybe what he's saying for exemptions, we'll have no capital gains here in Alberta. There'll be lots of reductions in taxes. We're overtaxed, we're overregulated, and we're well, just the oversight of government is incredible. We want a free market, and for the entrepreneur to be able to just spread his wings and fly with his ideas. Oh, vaccination exemptions. Thank you. Absolutely, one of the most critical things is the individual's right to life, liberty, and property. Property being our absolute body first, is the first property we have, and we have a right to decide what we're going to have. We'll have religious freedoms. We'll have freedom of conscience, freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, this idea of censorship, all of those things. We will be a prosperous and free nation. And again, if you look around the world, any place that's succeeding, where there's peace, where there's prosperity, it is because the rule of law, the recognition of the supremacy of God, not man or any of man's authority. That's what we need. We need the free market, free thought, and certainly a democratic process that allows us to decide what rules we want. But in the Constitution, our rights will be protected, and there won't be this idea that the majority can shut down a business because they don't like it, or the majority can shut down a religion. We absolutely need to protect our fundamental freedoms, and that's what a sovereign Alberta will do. From Sharon. Do you have any idea when some of the talking points on the websites will be expanded, such as more information regarding our Indigenous and how WIPA will work with them in a new Alberta? Well, thank you, Sharon. With COVID, it's been very difficult. They don't have a desire to meet, and I certainly haven't done any Zoom meetings. I just feel that we need to what would I say? Albertans need to get on board, realize we need to be sovereign. When I look at our problems and how Ottawa has treated us, it pales in comparison to the Indigenous people. And we'll allow them to choose their future, just like we'll allow Albertans to choose our future. And most important, though, every year we'll have policy conferences. And if there's ideas and Indigenous people come with their ideas on how to deal with them and go forward, as a party, we'll deal with those at our AGM each and every year. And again, that's the important thing, is there's a lot of good ideas. That's why I've started that new email address, ideas@paulhinman.com. But the members will decide at our policy conferences. But appreciate the question, Sharon. What is the party's stance on firearms? So let's go past stance on firearms. And in our Constitution, we have the right to defend our life, our liberty, and our property. I believe in castle law. I believe that if someone's entered into your home, that your life is threatened, and we need to be able to defend ourselves. And there's no question that firearms are the best defense. And we will absolutely protect the right to own and carry guns, so that people can and will be able to protect themselves and not have to call on the police or someone else. And again, like I say, that when someone's broken into your home right now, the biggest question is how much trouble am I going to get in with the law? Because they say that, oh, you got to use measured restraint. Well, when someone's broken into your home, I think that you can say that your life is at risk, and we need to be able to protect it and not have the fear of the law. That firearm rights are an absolute priority of the Wild Rose government and our policies. Paul, can you explain how WIPA government would be supportive and inclusive of the LGBTQ community? I've been hearing that some of these folks are mistrustful of WIPA because they feel that the party is too rednecked. Well, I'll tell you, there's a very simple answer. And in law, when you start to create a list, it's not one of inclusivity. If you're an Albertan, you will be protected. Start and end of story. Doesn't matter. I'm not going to ask your race, your gender, whatever it is. The question is, are you an Albertan? You will be protected and you'll be treated equally under the law. Thanks for the question, though. Will WIPA have an alliance with the federal Maverick Party? We won't have an alliance. I don't feel like we have common goals, but we'll have no alliance with any federal party. This is a provincial matter. Independence is voted on a provincial level. The nice thing about the Maverick Party is it's growing the independence movement in Saskatchewan, Alberta, British Columbia. And that's important because each province needs to take the steps to present to their citizens the vote for sovereignty. And I very much feel that Alberta will be the first ones to take those steps. And then I see very quickly we'll have Saskatchewan wanting to join us. I think Northern BC will want to join us. I think the Yukon and the Northwest Territories, that when they see the opportunities that they'll have from a constitutional government, we're going to have the sky's the limit for where we can go and the peace and the prosperity that we'll enjoy. But thanks for the question. We know that the new APP will replace the old CPP, but people I talk to also ask if they'll replace the old age pension and the guaranteed pension. We're going to absolutely categorically ensure that our seniors receive everything and more that they currently are, whether it's old age pension, whether it's all of the pensions and the plans that they get in security. One will be setting up a deal with Ottawa, but you need to realize that wherever you go in the world as a retiree, you still get your old age security and your Canada pension, and we'll be negotiating and enhancing whatever that we need to do. But you don't need to worry that you'll be in a tougher situation. What you need to worry is if we don't become sovereign, is whether or not you'll get that support, because the Canada pension plan is a pyramid scheme. It's not fully funded. There's an incredible liability there, and we need to get out of that and have a fully funded pension plan for our seniors. And again, the thing to remember is that we'll have an extra $2 to $3 billion a year that Albertans pay into the pension plan that we don't get back out. So we're actually building the pension plan year in, year out, and it is very sad that we don't have one like the Quebec pension plan. Captain Carter, Paul, what's opinion? Alberta having its own trade harbor in North BC. Well, under international law, we will have access to tidewater, but more important that we can make deals. The Eagle Spirit Energy Corridor, they're anxious to make a deal to build pipelines and to build in Prince Rupert terminals. We'll be able to negotiate and deal and to build at, I think, an accelerated rate that just isn't happening with the current governments and the way they stand and block our opportunity to do those things. But no, we'll be able to be successful at that and negotiate again with the Indigenous people and with the World Trade Organizations. I'm fully confident and excited about what we can do with an Alberta trade deals. Thanks for the question. Would you use referendum for big decisions? Well, two of the things that we're going to have in our constitution is one, recall, so that when Albertans aren't happy with a big decision, they can start collecting signatures and stop. The other one is citizens initiative referendums. And any big decision that politicians are too fearful of bringing forward, Albertans can sign a petition and get it in there, and those will be binding referendums. This idea that Kenny has on his referendums is just, it's insulting to Albertans. But no, the power will always be in the hands of the people, one, through recall, and two, through citizens initiative referendums. But thanks for the question. That's an important one. Barney, the major banks, oh, my eyes go in and out as I look up and down. Apologize. The major banks are ordering staff to get vaxxed. I tweeted on this today. On a provincial level, would you be able to step in and stop this? You know, there's different governors, Governor Santos in Florida and other areas, but there's no reason that Premier Kenny isn't standing up and protecting our constitutional rights. And this is a domino watershed moment where they're continuing to push this way past anything that's reasonable. Our constitution protects us, but our government and our judicial system is not, and we need elected people that will do that. And again, as you're voting in this federal election, make sure that you're voting for someone that will stand up for your constitutional rights, and if not, then spoil your ballot. But there's opportunities out there in most areas to vote for someone who's running for Alberta first and for your freedoms, and that's what we need to focus on. But no, we need to have our own sovereign nation, because Premier Kenny will not do anything, and Justin Trudeau says that he's going to basically tie us up and lock us down and then jab us. So we need to do something about that in this election. Once it's obvious to Canada that Alberta will hold a referendum on separation, how will Alberta keep out the carpetbaggers, and how will we control the masses that will want to immigrate? Well, one thing about when you're collecting the taxes, you actually have control of all of that. People that want to move here to get a job and those type of things are going to be taxed here, and so we'll have the revenue. The way we'll control it is that they won't be registered voters, and so you'll have to be a registered Albertan, have to be paying your taxes, have to be living here. Again, those will be things that are policy conventions, or when we're coming up with the Constitution. Do you need to be here 1 year or 5 years? What do you need to do here to have the right to be voting, so that we're not overwhelmed with mass migration into the province trying to hijack us from the east or any other jurisdiction in the world? But thanks for the question. We should be able to control it. When are you going to start a petition on separation? Well, that's what we are. The petition is a membership in the Wild Rose Independence Party of Alberta, and as was asked earlier, as our strengths grow, we will actually be influencing policy and where Premier Kenny goes. I can see as we continue to grow where Premier Kenny will say, oh, we need to have a police force, that I don't think he's going to act on any of these before the next election in 2023, but he may, as our party grows, he may act and say, oh, I'm going to put in the police force, I'm going to start collecting, an Alberta pension plan, and he might play around with some of the more easier ones. But the absolute petition is to join up the Wild Rose Independence Party. But great question, and thanks. Kenny is allowing AIMCO to be run by Ontario left-wing globalists. What would you do about that? Well, thanks, Rob. And I'm not too sure how many people realize that. And again, it's interesting. We need to have the resume on these individuals, but he keeps bringing in individuals from Ontario. We used to have some renowned Albertans in there, and I haven't looked recently to see who's all on there. But we will make sure that we have individuals on AIMCO that are actually working for Alberta and Alberta interests first, and not Eastern Canada or other jurisdictions, because it certainly is questionable in when we don't have our own people in there. But great question. Thanks, Rob. Having just sent a letter of complaint from Fort McMurray, how their candidate was just assigned with no involvement by the Electoral Association, and seeing the same control from Canadian UCP brass, what is your stance and how much power the Grassroots Constituency Association should have? Well, excellent question. And again, we've discussed this many times. I absolutely believe that the members in the constituency associations are the ones who get to decide. The only role the province has, or the provincial board, is the vetting process. We want to make sure, and we've got a company hired that's what they do, is to vet individuals, their backgrounds, and to make sure that they're sound and secure. And then the members. And for me, any CA that has 500 members and $5,000 in the bank, and the CA board has an individual that they want to nominate and to open up nominations, will be able to do that. And we won't be interfering. I won't be interfering. The provincial board won't be interfering. It'll be the members in those constituency associations that'll get to decide. And that's why it's so critical and important that you have your membership, because you will be the ones who decide. It's not going to be myself or the provincial board. And I'm excited about that, of actually making sure that the power resides with the people and the memberships in each riding. But thanks for the question, because it certainly isn't respected in other parties.
Okay, Paul, I'm gonna put up in consecutive order a couple of comments that relate to being landlocked, and then you can comment after I put the two up.
Okay. Well, I'm not actually sure. Would Afghanistan be a good template to judge how trade could be affected in a landlocked country? Matt, I guess I'm not familiar enough with the trade of Afghanistan to comment on that. I'll have to look into it. But the fact of the matter is that if you have uh, a country and your board is protecting it, or your elected people are, that we'll go out and negotiate those deals that we need to get. And I mean, the courts are a very slow process in trying to get action when something's wrong. But boy, there's other ways. Like I say, if they're not allowing us access, we're going to shut off access from the Vancouver port to the rest of Canada. I've said it many times, and I'll say it again. Alberta is the only rat-free zone that I know of. And if we can keep out four-legged rats, we'll certainly keep out two-legged rats. And if we need to, if we can't export, we'll be shutting down trains and trucks that are going east, and we'll be quarantining them and isolating them and making sure that they're rat-free, or whatever else it is we need to do. But we're not going to allow them to walk over us and stop us from going forward. Austria is landlocked. Switzerland is landlocked. There's many countries in Europe that are landlocked, and in Africa, and they all have access to tight water. And I just don't see any reason why Alberta won't, and will be free and be able to prosper. But thanks for the question. Does WIPA have a constitution? Where can I see it? Yes, if you go to our website, and then, oh boy, let me just jump over here and go to it so I don't lead you astray. Oh, this is the new membership one. Anyways, if you go to our website, there's certainly sites that will be on there under documents, and you'll be able to go there. But if you have a problem, send me an email to paulhinman@wildrosenation.com. And oh, there it is. David's put it up. But anyways, if you go to wildrose.party, go under governing, and then documents, and they'll be there. And our constitution that we voted on in our AGM is there, and our policies are also there. So yes, we have one. Mr. Hinman, will you be coming to the Barhead Whitecourt area? No one? Um, yes, I will. I've passed through a couple of times. I think on October 4th to the 9th, I will be up in the Northwest. Reach out, send an email, especially if you'd like to help host one. Be thrilled to be there. I haven't stopped in specifically at Barhead. Those areas, but we need the local people. It's in your hands to reach out, sell the memberships, contact us, and I'm happy. I've traveled all over the province, from Grand Prairie. I'll be going up to Fort McMurray here. I've only been up to Cold Lake as the furthest northeast that I've been so far in the Wild Rose Independence movement. But yes, every area be happy to get to, but work with me and we'll get something set up. Rob, you're really active here tonight. Can you reiterate your advice for local municipal elections? Should there be Wild Rose endorsed local candidates that could use an organized push to help take back the individual cities? Rob, it's been so frustrating, and now we have a federal election that again is overshadowing the municipal elections. This is our opportunity. If I was focusing on anything as a citizen of Alberta, it would be out there and get connected with the municipal elections, find somebody to work, but absolutely get together as your Wild Rose CAs and start discussing and reaching out and finding individuals, and those individuals that you want that are freedom fighters, that they're not going to allow their towns or their municipalities to be shut down. And again, we need that civil disobedience by the masses. We're just dissidents when it's individuals. But again, Rob, if you can't find somebody, put your own name forward and run. It's just so critical to help in this fight to be able to take over our municipal elections this fall. And I encourage every Wild Rose independent member to get involved and to work as a CA to find good people that you can support. But take over your local town, your county, your city. We can do this, but we've absolutely got to roll up our sleeves and get to work. It's not an easy task, but it's a doable one. So good luck, and thanks for bringing up that question, Rob.
I think we're done with the questions.
Well, I just want to thank each and every one of you. I just want to encourage you to go to wildrose.party, click on volunteers, and let's get ready for September 21st to 23rd. We're going to do this, but boy, it's going to take an army of soldiers. I appreciate each and every one of you so much. We've had such an influence in the province, and we'll continue to have an influence. But we've got to grow our numbers. We need the donations to come in. We need to get lawn signs out. I don't think we discussed that, but that's another thing I'm looking forward is having lawn signs available that people will be able to buy and acquire. I'd love to see signs going up. I don't know if you remember a few years ago, but we had signs up all over the province on what was the best beer. Well, we need to have those signs wrapped around bales, but again, straw bales and $300 a ton for hay and whatnot might not be the best year, but we can put it up on fences, on vehicles. We need to get that Wild Rose name out there, and it's each and every one of you to get bumper stickers, lawn signs, and again, roadside signs. Looking forward to it. But as tough as these times are, it's exciting because we have a way forward. You look at everything else, and what's depressing is when there is no option. We have an option. It's the Wild Rose Independence Party. God bless each and every one of you. Together with the strength in numbers, we will do this, and I look forward to working with all of you. But thank you and good night.